And the only way I feel like I can have a positive relationship with exercise is through competition.
Hi everyone, welcome to a new Flame Bearer series, Making It To Milan. I'm Ashley Cain, Olympic paraskater, two-time national champion, World Team Trophy champion, and I performed as Elsa in Disney on Ice.
And I'm Dani Aravich, two-time Paralympian, hopefully soon to be three-time, cross-country skier and formerly track and field. I'm also the co-founder of Culxtured, a media company looking to revolutionize the way the world views Paralympic sports. Culxtured is proud to partner with Flame Bearers on this podcast.
Together, we're your hosts diving into the stories of Olympic and Paralympic women making it to the games.
We're going beyond the score and medal counts to tell you the real stories about what it's like to work hard, live out your dreams, and make it to Milan.
Dani, welcome to our show.
To our show. That sounds cute. Oh, I like that. I am honored to be here.
I love it. I love that we get to start this way and get to know each other more through this episode. First one. What's one word that comes to mind when I say Milan?
Wine.
Nice. We love it. Who do you want most cheering you on at a major competition?
Ooh, the world, because that means they care about parasports.
What's the first thing you want to eat or drink after a major competition?
Wine and cheese fondue, but I will do it before a competition if I need. The best thing about being an endurance athlete, you just have to eat a lot of carbs and a lot of food. So I'll eat cheese fondue before the race. I'll eat it after.
What's one word to describe your training routine?
Annoying. So many hours.
I can relate. Do you train every day?
Yep. 6. Sometimes I take one rest day. But like today I did a rest day and I went alpine skiing. So I still exercise, just not endurance training.
I was going to say like my rest day is like going for a walk or like a light stretch. Your rest day seems very aggressive. What is your pump up song?
I listen to compilations of motivational speeches set to music. It's intense.
Are your motivational speeches, are they very calming or aggressive ones?
Like I think middle-aged men giving speeches. So it's often like men screaming at you to, do better basically.
Well, clearly it's worked. You're going to your third Paralympics. So what Netflix show helps you turn off your brain?
Reality TV. I do paint myself to be an expert of particularly Bravo.
What is the hardest part about being a Paralympian that nobody sees?
Ooh, traveling with a ton of gear with a ton of disabled people. I have one less hand to carry things. People are using a wheelchair. People are using hand crutches so they can't hold anything. And so in our sport, we have so much gear and we are traveling. All of us are also disabled on top of that.
What do you want the headline to be about your performance in Milan?
Dani Aravich shocks the world. I'm still very new on the scene in my sport relatively. And people have a lot more experience. Like I'm racing people who have a lot more medals than me. And so when I have gone a podium, it very much surprises me and everyone else around me.
That is great energy. I think that's one of the best things is to be able to look back and be like, wow, I did that. That's pretty cool that was me out there.
When someone becomes so dominant in the sport, a bad day for them is not being on the podium, which is wild to think about. And to be the person who's not expected to be there is a very beautiful place to be.
So how did you first get involved in para track and field?
I was a college runner. I was recruited to go Division I for cross country and track and field. That's rare in the para space often that someone ends up on a Division I program just, due to the nature of different disabilities and the way para sports work. But I didn't know really anything about the Paralympics, about the Paralympic movement. I ended up quitting the team in college due to a number of reasons. And I just, now I can reflect back and realize I was not mature enough as an 18-year-old to be an elite level athlete. And I think especially in college distance running, these people are training exactly like pros. And so I stepped back and I really focused on my business career. And that was trying to work in professional sport. Ended up at a full-time job after college in the industry. And I was having success in my career, but something was still missing. And I had a very unhealthy relationship with exercise when I entered corporate America. I'm not inspired to wake up and go on a run or go to the gym based on, a desire to be physically fit, based on a desire to be healthy. That doesn't motivate me. The only way I feel like I can have a positive relationship with exercise is through competition. And I ended up talking to this family whose daughter went to the same small high school as me in Boise, Idaho, and her daughter was starting para track and field as a high schooler. And she, said, you should check it out, your background in running. And I, not knowing anything about the Paralympics, isn't that for people who use wheelchairs or who are blind? And she's like, honey, you're missing your hand. You fit the bill. And I was inspired at this idea that I could have another athletic career because mine didn't end on a very positive note in college. And it opened up such a world of possibility for me to learn about disability, learn about the Paralympic movement. And through that training for track and field is how I eventually found Nordic, which is what I do now.
Sometimes that step away and gaining perspective, you go through so much in life, and when you're able to gain that perspective and know that that desire and that passion and that fire is still in you somewhere, why not put that to use and see how far it could go? I'm so happy that you're getting that opportunity, because there's many athletes that sometimes step away and they never get that chance. They never get to rewrite that end of their story. And the fact that you're getting to do that and continue that on and is amazing. And the fact that even you can do different sports, coming from figure skating. I don't want to speak for all figure skaters, but normally you are just figure skating. You get to experience so many different things is really incredible as well. What inspired you to switch to Nordic skiing?
I never intended to be a winter athlete. I was training for track, working full time at my job in the NBA, and I got an email from the U.S. Paralympic Nordic ski development coach, and she invited me to try the sport at a big event in Colorado. They were going to pay for my flights, which was nice, and it seemed like an interesting opportunity, but I never anticipated by going to that camp that I would now, 5 years later, be doing this full time. I stumbled upon the experience. And I ended that week of skiing just being so frustrated that I couldn't figure it out. And I wanted to be good at it. They told me then it will take 6 to 8 years to feel like you have learned Nordic ski technique. And I was like, wow, 6 to 8 years is a really long time, especially if you're in your mid-20s and you're trying to do this track and field thing while also still trying to work. But I was living in Salt Lake City, Utah at the time, big Nordic ski community. And actually one of the people they introduced me to was at that time one of the winningest female winter Paralympians of all time, Tanya Kari, who is from Finland. She has the same disability as me, missing her arm very similarly, but on the right side rather than my left. And they introduced me to her, and she has been still to this day such an influential figure in my Nordic ski career, and basically gave me a pair of old skis and was like, try to do it when you can and see how it goes. The delay of the Tokyo Paralympics and Olympics occurred. And suddenly the games were going to be 6 months apart. And so I knew, I'm going to try to make the track and field team. But I got into a race then in that delayed year of the games and got to compete internationally for cross-country skiing as a total newbie, which is a very rare experience, and saw how incredibly far behind I was from every competitor and thought, that was my one chance. I got to go to this little World Cup during the COVID year. And now I'll go back to track and field. But our director at the time that summer said, you should spend the winter with our national team in Bozeman, Montana. I thought, that sounds great. I love the state of Montana. I always thought I'd move there. But I need to focus on track and field if I'm going to make this team. And I really contemplated it and thought I should stay in Salt Lake, where I was familiar, where I was training for track. And something like called me to take this opportunity and go for the winter leading into Tokyo up to Bozeman to train with the team. And I am very grateful I did. Did it distract from my track and field training? Absolutely. I didn't train the best for track and field because I was doing this other thing. But I spent that year skiing almost every single day for the entire winter, set me up where Beijing was suddenly also possible. And so I did my quick flip-flop in March back over to track and tried to do some ski training in the summer, but it was very unknown if I would make either team. And so the fact that I ended up making both and was only one of 4 to do the back-to-back was also a huge surprise to myself and probably everyone else who knew me. And it just was the, greatest experience, but also it made me realize that doing 2 was not going to be possible for me if I wanted to do really well at one.
I feel like having the honest conversation with yourself is very crucial, as hard as it can be sometimes. I had a similar situation. So like in figure skating, we had different disciplines. And from a young age, I did single skating in the women's event and I did pair skating. And pair skating is what I went to the Olympics in. But I competed in both disciplines for the longest time. Like I would be at the national championships. I'd compete a long program for singles. And then like 2 hours later, I'd compete a short program for pairs. Like it was boom, boom. And I always did it in like, we have novice, junior, senior, and senior is the highest. Senior is what go to Olympics. And I always did it at the novice level, the junior level, and then I did it where one discipline was junior and one was senior. I was able to handle it. Like I never thought it was an issue. I was able to split my time well. I was able to be successful in both. And then my partner and I at the time, we had split back in 2012. And so for like 4.5 years, I just skated singles. And that was the first time in my life I'd really done that. My partner that I went to the Olympics with, Timothy, in 2016 gave me a call and we ended up having a tryout. We ended up skating together. And at that time that we have the tryout, I was like, well, I want to try and commit to doing singles and pairs again, both at the senior level. I've done it before. I can do it again. And I started to train, and training was very difficult having both at the senior level, like at that most elite level. And I had a competition coming up where I was going to be competing in both disciplines at it. And I did the long program for singles earlier in the day, and then I did pairs long program later in the day. And the pairs long program, like the whole competition in the end for me was like a mess. Like I was like Zamboning the ice basically. And I got off the ice and I said to my parents, who were also my coaches, they were skiers, and I said to them, I was like, okay, I'm ready to hang up my skates for singles and I'm just wanting to commit to pairs. And it was in that time frame of like music ended, I got off the ice, and I was like, I am able to make that decision. And they were like, well, let's like wait a little bit and see. But I felt like in my heart I knew, and I felt like I was grappling with it a little bit for a while. But having felt doing 2 at the same time in a one competition, I was like, I don't know how attainable this can be moving forward. And so I just picked pairs. And I decided to commit everything I had to Timothy and to our partnership. And it took us on this like beautiful long journey together that ended up with the Olympic Games, which was our goal when we first teamed up together. And I think had I like never sat with myself and been able to close that door on my singles career, and I do think for me, holding on to my singles career was just something I could always count on. Like I could always count on myself, always. And I just knew that I was always going to be okay if I had myself. But then it was like I didn't need to worry about that anymore with Timothy. Like Timothy was my partner and they were always going to be there no matter what. So I felt that from them, and I was able to make that decision to not just always be, this is like keep Ashley safe. I was like, okay, Timothy and I have this together, and I'm able to like full force put everything into our partnership. And we just like kind of took off after that, I feel like. So having that honest conversation is so key because it opens up these doors that maybe you were keeping closed a little because of something else.
And opens you up to potentially, more athletic potential when you're not diverting your attention between these two things. Like you're able to give more focus to the one and more attention and more love to it, which probably will lead to greater athletic success.
That's what I think too. And you're also like not as tired all the time. So it's like a little better. I was like exhausted. I was like seeing everybody leave the rink and I was like still getting on for another session. And I was like, I don't know how long I could do this. But I tell so many athletes, I'm like, do it as long as you can, do both disciplines because it's going to make you a stronger athlete overall. It's so good to learn so many different elements, put yourself in so many different situations, but there will come a time when you have to make that decision.
And I think same with children, like people who specialize so early in a sport can be detrimental sometimes and lead to burnout. I get this in cross-country skiing, a sport, that is so oddly technical, but so specific, it feels like, that a lot didn't transfer from other sports when I started it. But I do think, sometimes when it comes to like agility, like something that's so specific, maybe for like a turning technique in skiing or something like that, I'm like, oh my God, I just think about like my athletic stance from like basketball as a kid and like the way I would get low on in basketball to play defense. Like that's how I have to almost like think about my cornering on these two little sticks on my feet. So I think it's so important too for children to have a wide variety of sports before they specialize, because they will pick up things and they'll just learn how their body moves in these different ways that then hopefully in maybe whatever sport they continue on in someday, they can, bring up some of those past experiences or thoughts and have more body awareness that they might not have had if they only did that one sport their entire childhood.
Absolutely. Like I started in a ton of different sports. My parents kind of threw me into it because being skaters themselves, they were like, we want her to choose skating if she wants to do it, but we're not going to force it on her. So they put me in so many different sports. And at the end of the day, like I chose skating and I was able to make that decision, which I think made that even more special to me. But I always tell all of my students, I'm like, you need to do some sort of dance. You need to understand musical counts. You need to have rhythm. You need to have body awareness. All of those things are so key to just making you a better skater overall. I think also team sports are very important too, because in skating, we can get very individual. And so putting an athlete into a team sport and having them understand how what you do affects the rest of the team is really important. And it's something you learn in pair skating, is that what you do affects your partner and what they do affects you as well. So you're working as this cohesive unit to try and get the best outcome. And it also makes you see that like this isn't the only route you've shown in your own career. Like you're able to pivot and like find another something else that kind of awakens something in you. And I think that that's so important because sometimes people get so locked into this one track, and like that's not always the case. At 21 when Tim called me, I was like, I don't know if I can do pairs again. Like I feel too old.
Old at 21?
I know. Like at that point I'd been skating for so long. I started when I was 2. So I had been skating for so long that I was like, I don't know if at like 20 I could do it all over again. And then I'm like, I'm being so ridiculous. So I just think it shows like at any age you can really, again, that word pivot. And with us learning how you got into this sport, how are you feeling about the upcoming games in Milan?
I feel really good physically, mostly too, because last season I had mono. So that makes anything feel so much better when you don't have mono or you're not experiencing the effects of mono. Coming into this sport later in life, like being already an analytical person and a type A person, I didn't get to, experience as a child or teen, building volume and trying to like get more and more hours under your belt and seeing how your body responds to different hours or different types of training stimuluses. So it's still like a little bit of exploration in that and hoping we're making the best decisions without knowing, what the result might be. One thing that has changed these past few years is the first few years I like took the training plan from the coach and whatever they said as truth. You telling me to do this? I guess I should do this, and I'm not going to question it or wonder why. But I think this came more so with my age and my life maturity to understand that I need to play around with it for myself. Start to figure out what works well for me. I work 3 jobs at the moment. I own a business. I will just never be a traditional athlete who only has skiing on their plate. So how can I make the life pieces work with the skiing pieces to still get the best outcome we can with what we have and the time that we have?
So you had mentioned that sometimes you feel really exhausted or you might not be feeling your best. In those moments, do you have somebody that anchors you that can kind of show up for you when you maybe don't feel like you can fully show up for yourself? Is there a person for you?
I would say there's 2 people who do that for me. And if you were to look in my call log, the 2 people I spend the most time talking to on the phone, which is my significant other, Eric, and my mother. This is my mom, Kate Hartwell Aravich, and I am her only child besides her dog.
But don't ask me which one I love most. After a tough day of training, I try to support Dani by just listening when she calls on her way back from training, just to let her get it all out, say a lot of ahas and I understand. And when I see Dani on TV or in her commercials or at the competitions like we were just in Canada, I don't think I'm used to it yet. So every time it happens, it's just like otherworldly, like I'm living in an alternate reality. The big win when she podiumed last year, like in her final race, and called us, pretty sure she called her boyfriend first, but when she called us, the amount of pride, the smile goes ear to ear, and it's just, you can't believe she's living this life. I can say that I'm doing it better than 5 years ago, because 5 years ago, I was cheering at the shooting range for biathlon and had to have someone tell me, oh, we don't yell loudly while they're shooting. Now I yell loudly at the finish line.
What type of stuff do you cheer?
Go, Dani. Go, Dani. Push it all the way. Finish strong. And then my husband used to say, because he heard another coach say it, hips and hands. Focus on your hips and hands.
They don't know anything about cross-country skiing, and he says hips and hands just because he heard another coach say it.
We don't know a lot.
To finish off, tell me how you got involved in this series and why you're excited about it.
I am excited to be co-hosting this series with Flame Bearers and Culxtured and you, Ashley, because I find the journey to the games to be the most interesting thing about the games. And people and the media always give the attention when you're at the Olympics or Paralympics. Like, that's when the chaos starts and people are suddenly curious to hear your story, hear your name. But I think it goes so much deeper than that, and it goes so much longer than that. So I love that people will get to learn about these athletes' personalities, people in their life, but then how do they actually get to Milan? Like, how do you qualify? Because I think, the athlete who's going to try to qualify for their first Olympics or Paralympics has just as much value to the movement as someone who's going for their 5th or 6th. And the person who also doesn't make the team provided a lot of value. And it's sports. For every winner, there's a loser. For every person who makes the team, there's a person who didn't make the team. And that person's journey still provides so much value to the landscape of the sport, to the Olympic and Paralympic movement. So I wanted to make sure through this series that we highlight all of those incredible women athletes from across the world in the Olympics and Paralympics on how they actually make it to Milan.
Well, I am so excited to be co-hosting with you, and we look forward to bringing you so many stories in our series, Making It to Milan, and we are going to be cheering you on. I'm going to be cheering so loud, and I hope that you get all of the wine and cheese fondue that your heart desires.
Wine,
and
cheese
all of your
in the middle.
dreams come true. Yes. Well, thank you so much for speaking with me. Thank you for tuning into Flame Bearers Making It to Milan.
If you like what you heard, please like, follow, and subscribe to Flame Bearers on YouTube and anywhere you get your favorite podcasts.
Stay tuned as we bring you more behind-the-scenes stories of women athletes around the world training for the competition of a lifetime. See you next time on Making It to Milan.